press conference on the Canada's Food System Initiative. Joining us today are Lisa Bishop-Spencer, the Executive Director of the Canadian Centre for Food Integrity, and Keith Currie, President for the Canadian Federation of Agriculture. We'll begin with opening remarks, and then we'll move into a Q&A session for members of the media. To kick things off, I'd like to invite Lisa to begin. Go ahead, Lisa.
Thank you. Good morning, and thanks everyone for being here. Today's an important day for Canada's food system. We're launching a national initiative that's designed to connect Canadians to one of our country's greatest assets, which is the food system that sustains us every day. It's a highly complex, high-performing, and often invisible system. It's time to raise its profile and make sure that Canadians see it for what it truly is, a core Canadian pillar. This is a sector-wide initiative with participation from organizations that represent the breadth and the depth of our sector, and each plays a role in Canada's food system. Together, we're focused on the innovations, the opportunities, and the human stories that strengthen sustainability, food security, and innovation in Canada. The food system is not a straight line from farm to fork. It's a web. It connects farms and processors, transporters, retailers, innovators, and communities across the entire country. That web is one of Canada's greatest strategic assets, but most Canadians don't see it. Beyond the numbers that Keith will speak to in just a few moments, the food system plays a strategic role. It connects urban and rural communities. It drives investment in transportation and trade infrastructure, and it helps maintain Canada's reputation as a stable and trusted supplier in a volatile environment. It is a critical piece of our national economic engine. The context for this work is important. The challenge we face is not widespread distrust, it's indifference. For most Canadians, the food system operates quietly in the background, and when something is invisible, it often fails to receive the recognition
in progress
or the support it deserves. When we began working on this initiative, positive impressions of the food system had just undergone a sharp 7-point drop from 52 to 45% from 2003 to 2024. And we observed too that pessimism about our direction had increased, with only 1 in 3 people feeling as though the food system was heading in the right direction. Over the past year, though, we've been seeing signs that Canadians are paying closer attention to the resilience and the national capacity of their food system. We're seeing indicators that our upcoming 2025 public trust research will point to a shift in how Canadians are viewing the sector. There's a growing pro-Canadian sentiment emerging from the current environment, one that reflects a heightened awareness of how our food system is essential to national stability and prosperity. But that moment is fragile. We saw a similar pattern during the pandemic when trust spiked as Canadians recognized the sector's importance, only to fade again as the crisis passed. We can't afford to let that happen this time. Strengthening and maintaining our trust requires constant visibility and engagement, not just during moments of crisis, but every day. So this initiative is Canadian, and it focuses on the connection that people have with the food they eat. It's also grounded in research. 86% of Canadians say that a national initiative like this would help them better understand the food system. And more than 8 in 10 say they want to learn about how the food system works. Canadians are ready for this conversation. So through research and storytelling and public relations and digital engagement, we want to bring Canadians closer to the people and processes behind their food. It'll make the food system visible, valued, and understood as a foundation to our economy, our communities, and our future. To speak more about the importance of this kind of work from the perspective of the farmers in the agriculture sector, I'd like to invite Keith Currie, President of the Canadian Federation of Agriculture, to say a few words. Over to you, Keith.
Thanks so much, Lisa. The Canadian Federation of Agriculture is proud to be part of this initiative. Across the country, 190,000 farm families work every day to keep Canadians fed and to drive a strong, resilient economy. Agriculture and agri-food in Canada contributes nearly $150 billion to our GDP and employs more than 2.3 million people, more than the automotive, the forestry, steel and aluminum, and the oil and gas sectors combined. This is not just an agricultural story, it's a national economy story. For example, Canada's food and beverage manufacturing sector is the largest manufacturing sector in the country. It employs over 350,000 people. Canada's food system is among the most productive and innovative in the world, producing enough feed for more than 150 million people annually. Canada is also a global food leader, consistently ranking among the top agricultural and food exporters in the world. In recent years, the sector has achieved record export values exceeding 100 billion annually, supplying safe, high-quality food and agriculture products to markets right around the globe. This is not a quaint niche sector, it's a strategic economic engine that drives prosperity and supports millions of livelihoods across this country. For generations, Canada has been a trusted supplier of food to the world. We have land, we have water, expertise, and regulatory strength to lead globally in sustainable food production. But while other nations have invested boldly in agri-tech, domestic processing, and export readiness, Canada has been slower to act. As a result, we slid from being a top 5 global agri-food exporter in 2000 to ninth place today, even as our export value has quadrupled. In other countries, they are innovating faster and capturing more of the value chain. This initiative is about changing that trajectory by strengthening Canadians' connection to their food system. When people understand the scale, sophistication, and importance of the sector, they're more likely to support the policies, the investment, and innovation needed to keep it strong. Farmers are ready to do their part. From climate challenges to shifting trade dynamics, they are in the front lines of change. With the right tools and a clear national focus, agriculture can unlock enormous economic potential, adding an estimated $100 billion over the next decade. But that requires leadership and coordinated action, and it starts with Canadians recognizing just how much this sector matters. Thanks, Lisa, and I will turn it back to you.
Thanks, Keith. So this initiative is already reaching millions of Canadians through a coordinated set of tactics that are designed to make the food system visible in everyday life. We're building a presence that Canadians can see, hear, and engage with. The national creative is now live, bringing a touching, confident, and unifying voice about the food system into homes across the country. The initiative includes a national pledge, which provides Canadians with a clear way to express their support. Thousands have visited the website to sign on, share their stories, and express their pride in Canada's food system. These pledges aren't just numbers, they're Canadians who are standing up to say that this matters. We've also launched a new audio docu-series called Canada's Food System, Our Food, Our Future. It takes listeners into the lives of the people who make this system work. From intergenerational family farms to processors, innovators, and community leaders, it's authentic, grounded storytelling in Canadians' own voices. It's available on all major podcast platforms and is being promoted through digital PR and social channels. Over time, this series will build a living library of trusted voices from across the country. So these assets all work together, and the messaging reaches Canadians at scale. The pledge gives Canadians a way to participate. The audio docu-series deepens their understanding and emotional connection. Digital and social channels bring real stories to the forefront every day. This is a shared effort. It's been built with partners from across the food system, and it's designed to create a lasting presence that Canadians can connect with and champion. We invite Canadians to see the food system in a new light, not just as infrastructure, but as a foundation for our economy, our communities, and our shared future. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Lisa. We're now going to move on and open the floor to questions from members of the media. If you're a reporter and you would like to ask a question, please type into the chat box to let us know. You can write something like a question or I have a question. You don't have to write the whole question there. I'll call in reporters one by one. When it's your turn, I'll invite you to unmute. You can state your name, your outlet, who your question is for, and I'll let you guys start filing in right now. You can wait a few moments. Okay, Joanna, you can go ahead.
Hi there, good morning. My question is for both of you, I guess, really, but maybe beginning with Keith. I'm curious about, I cover international trade for The Logic based here in Ottawa. And my question is regarding the retaliatory actions by China that have largely targeted Canada's agricultural products. I'm curious as to where you see that's heading and where you would like to see the federal government sort of navigate perhaps the rock and a hard place it's in vis-a-vis aligning trade policy with the US and where it stands with China. Thank you.
Thanks, Joanna. It's a great question and one we get all the time. And in fact, I just returned yesterday from Italy. I was in at a North American European Union Farm Leaders Conference, and that certainly was a topic of discussion for sure, tariffs in general. But with respect to China, it is a very tough one, especially for our sectors that are directly affected, canola and pork, pulse, and our seafood producers. I'm hoping that there might be some inkling of a resolve after Prime Minister Carney's visit to Washington today, talking with President Trump to see how we can find some resolve around this. Initially, our tariffs on electric vehicles were to comply with our friends to the south, but of course, since January, things have changed. And what we really are looking for now is a way out for our farmers, or a way to hold the fort, so to speak. The government of Canada was very quick in the early Carney days to announce support for the automobile sector. Agriculture is 10 plus times bigger than that sector, and it's something that can drive the economy even more. So we really need some resolve for our farmers who are directly affected, and we're continuing to work with our governments. I will note there was an announcement about 3 weeks ago of some temporary measures. That's a great first step, but it has to go farther because our farmers need some hope that there's going to be resolve in this so they can go forward next year with their planning intentions, which they're making now. And in some cases, it's a matter of economic survival. So we really need some resolve out of this quickly.
I think Keith really just covered that. I don't know that you need much more from me on that.
Hey, just to follow up, I'm curious, and I'm sorry if I missed the any pre-budget submission to the Finance Committee. But what's the Federation asking for in terms of support in terms of the budget consultations that were held?
Well, we can actually find it on our website if you take a look and see that. And certainly, the big overarching themes, there's two really overarching themes. One is regulatory modernization and/or we need the right regulatory structure to be in place. And so we want to have those consultations with the governments and what that looks like, especially going forward as new legislation comes in. We want them to govern for us, or with us, not for us. And so have those conversations with us as we go forward and make sure the right regulatory framework is in place for whatever the initiative is that we're talking about. The other aspect to it is economic development themed. Certainly dealing with tariffs is part of that, and how we navigate through that, whether that's getting a reduction in the tariffs, whether that's finding compensation. We're in the midst of where the government of the US is announcing or going to announce a fairly large support package for the U.S. farmers. If we don't get something similar, that it puts us at a huge competitive disadvantage. So we need that aspect of it. But looking forward, the Prime Minister has announced a lot of NATO money, especially on infrastructure. We can tap into that. Rail lines, ports, roads, hydro system infrastructure, communications infrastructure. So there's a lot of opportunities there that I think can really serve the agri-food industry as a whole. And labor. Can't forget about labor as well.
Thank you, Keith. If there's any other media who have questions at this time, I invite you to unmute and ask your question. If not, well,
Could I actually just follow up on the last point you made, Keith, if that's all right? Since we have time. Yeah, can you just unpack that a little bit more about how agriculture expects to tap into some of that NATO spending? I just want to make sure I can understand it and clearly explain that to my readers.
So it's at a high level now with the Prime Minister's announcement of the increase in spending going forward on NATO spending. People naturally think that looks like guns and tanks and supplies and et cetera. But part of that is, I mentioned communications. When the when the Trudeau government first took over, the year after, they made an announcement to have everybody connected with cellular by 2030. There are a lot of parts of rural Canada that still are lacking greatly in rural connectivity. I just traveled throughout the country of Italy, and not once did I have anything less than 4 bars on my cell service. I go out behind my barn on my own farm, and sometimes it's to hide because I get no cell service in that location, and I'm 5 kilometers from a major town. So that communication aspect is really important, broadband and in particular cellular, because our machinery today operates with sensors and robots and all kinds of technology that needs that communication. We have a 100-year-old plus hydro system in many parts of rural Canada. And in a lot of cases, we don't even have 3-phase power, and our operations are bigger and more demanding of power. So we need to work through the federal government and the provinces to make sure we can upgrade natural gas lines and hydro lines to make sure we have the power on farm to really grow our businesses going forward. But the big ones are maintaining the aspect of being a trusted supplier. And that means being able to get products to our buyers. And so we need the rail infrastructure to really be looked at, improved, upgraded. For example, we have a port of Vancouver that has access by 2 rail lines, but right up the Prince Rupert, there is only one rail line servicing. Can we twin that line to increase production there? Our ports need desperate upgrades as well to handle agriculture commodities. So things like that kind of infrastructure spending is certainly greatly necessary to make sure that we grow this industry and drive the economy.
Just to chime in a little bit, and I think it's important to remember too that the initiative that we're proposing here really does look at trying to elevate that message and to help Canadians understand that our food system is important in terms of its connecting the global consumer to the Canadian system as well. So we have a big role to play, not only feeding Canadians, but in feeding the world. And I think that this is something that will really, help drive that message and be able to give something to people to anchor into in terms of their communication on things like that.
Thank you, Lisa. If no more media questions, we'll consider that to be a conclusion of today's press conference. Thank you again to our speakers and to all of those who joined us. If you have any additional follow-up questions, you can contact Annette Gerner, whose contact information is on the media advisory. And in addition, we'll be sending out a press conference for all of those who attended. So thank you so much, and we hope you have a great day.